Eddie Gray rose from humble beginnings in Castlemilk to become a Scottish football icon and a Leeds United legend. Elland Road idol Gray played, coached and twice managed Leeds, who of course have just secured a place back in the Premier League. I'm Derek McGregor and this is One on One, and Ambassador Eddie gives me the inside track on Paraag Marathe, frontman of club owners 49ers Enterprises, who, with fellow US tycoon Andrew Kavanagh, is about to take full control at Rangers. But Eddie also tells all about his wonderful football life. Eddie, I'm in the presence of greatness.
I don't know about that.
No, I mean, here we are, Elland Road, Leeds United, amazing club. You, 25 years ago I think it was, you were voted as amongst the top 3 greatest players in the club's history. Yeah. Billy Bremner and John Charles in there as well.
Yeah.
You're the scorer of the goal that many fans rate the greatest in the club's history, 1970 versus Burnley.
Right.
Do you want me to carry on? You quite like that?
No, really. But funny enough, I scored 2 goals that game.
You did?
And the first goal meant more to me. Because the second goal, I never really thought about it. It just happened. But the first goal, I had to control the ball quickly. I seen the goalkeeper off his line and chipped it, you know.
Instinctive.
So that meant more to me. But I can understand why other people think the second goal was the best goal. But
do you think the first one was better?
For me it was.
Aye.
From a technical point of view.
Aye.
Yeah.
I mean, the second one was sensational.
Yeah, it was decent, but...
I mean, it had everything.
Yeah.
I mean, you're left-footed, of course, but you finished it with your right.
Yeah.
But the
I
way
wasn't bad with my right foot.
Well, I was going to say, the way you played, Eddie, it was hard to tell.
Yeah. I was okay. I mean, obviously, my brother Frank was left-footed as well, you know.
Aye.
When my dad was, was young and played, my dad was left-footed, you know. So it carried on the tradition. But it's funny, like, Andrew, Frank's boy, he's right-footed. Archie's right-footed. Harry's right-footed. You don't know how it works, you know.
Is it possible for you to say what this club means to you?
Well, it means everything from the point of view. It's been my life. I mean, I come down here 1963. It's a long time ago. I'd played with the Glasgow schoolboys and the Scottish schoolboys. And I'd been to a few of the big clubs, in England. But I'm a Celtic supporter. I was going to Celtic Park. That was what, I went to visit a few clubs, but with no intention of signing for them. And one day a scout come up called John Barr and he asked me to get into a club called Leeds United. And when he says to me, Leeds United, I says, who? It's true, I'd never heard of them. Because I was a Celtic supporter.
Aye.
They never won anything in England.
Aye.
I knew about the Arsenals and the Man Uniteds and Don Revie's Man City when he played there. And funny enough, I thought I would get down for a weekend and just, for a few days.
The emotions?
Well, just
show them respect. Show them respect.
John was a good man. John came for Still, and John was a really good scout. He ended up, in those days it was only part-time, but he got so many players down, me, my brother, McQueen, Jordan, he got all the Scottish boys down, John.
He knew what he was doing.
Yeah, he became full-time scout here. I made him a full-time scout when I was manager here. John was a lovely man. And I came down, and funny enough, my mum and dad put me on the train in Glasgow, and when I got off the train in Leeds, I seen a fella waiting for me, and it was Don Revie himself. Now, I'd been to clubs and somebody picks you up for the club, a representative.
Aye.
But Don was waiting for me in the station. He took me to a hotel. He says, I'll pick you up in the morning. He picked me up in the morning, and I was across the other side where the car park is now. It used to be training pitches there and the dressing room for all the kids. So I was sitting there with all the so-called trials for all the country.
Aye.
And Don came in and he took me out.
How old were you, Eddie?
I was 14, 15, just turned 15 then. And he says, you're training with me today. So he took me with the first team. And the first thing I did, I picked the ball up and I did a stupid thing. I nutmegged Jack Charlton and he booted me up in the air. Don't do that to me again, you little bee. That was it,
And you didn't?
No, and he says to Don, you've got to sign this boy, he's going to be a player. Because Big Jack was an established player then, So from then on it was...
But did Celtic never come in for you?
Oh yeah. I used to train at the park. And, I remember, my dad and I were Celtic daft, and Sean come up to the ground.
Sean Fallon?
Yeah, and he was talking to my dad. He's got to go to Celtic. But I'd made my mind up as soon as I came to Leeds.
Really?
Yeah, that was the club I wanted to go to. Only because of the manager, you know, like meeting men, what he did. And probably at that particular time, I don't know if you know, Celtic used to farm boys out.
Yeah.
You know, playing for amateur clubs and that.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Kind of the Blues went to Cumbernauld.
Yeah, I know, but
The
club told me they wouldn't do that with me at Celtic. They says, no, you just come straight onto the staff. And you know, that nearly swayed me. But as soon as I'd met Don Revie, you know, the manager, it was a powerful character, great knowledge of the game. Don, and you know, Don was Footballer of the Year as well, so he could play. I mean, he was only about 35 when I came here, so he used to join in the training sessions, Don. You know, he was a terrific footballer.
Did you ever not make him?
No. You wouldn't do that to Don.
No.
Don was the type of man and manager. It didn't make any difference what company he was in. If he walked into the room and be the centre of attention, you know, he just start here about him, that, you know, that aura.
Presence.
And everybody would, you know, listen. That's why I think that he was such a powerful character here. I mean, it's not a secret, Don ran the club. You know, he ran the whole club. I mean, I've seen him leaving Jack Charlton in London if he's let for a bus. Seen him leaving the chairman in London if he's let for a bus. You know, and he used to moan, and Don used to say to him, listen, when I say 5:30, it means 5:30, not 25 to 6. So that was Don. Don was all powerful here. I mean, he was a great manager. I just think that I think the reason he left, and it was funny how he left, because we just won the league championship.
Yeah.
And he left.
Yeah.
And I think it was because they had this group of players together, you know, for a young age, and you know, it felt to think, you know, I'm going to have to break this team up, and I don't want to do it. I think that's why he left. You know, I mean, we had so many terrific players, you know, with some of the best players that I've ever played the game. I mean, one player at the club who, well, everybody within the club knows he's got a sweetheart here, Norman Hunter. Hunter was one of the great players. You know, people talk about Norman Hunter, bite your legs, Hunter. But Norman was a great footballer, a great footballer. And obviously, the best player I've ever played with was Giles. Johnny Giles was a genius. And he came, it's funny, you know, like how things happen. Johnny came here in '63, the year I joined, I was only 15. Johnny just won the FA Cup with Man United. So a couple of years later, when I got to know him better, I says, John, why did you leave Man United? You know, he just won the FA Cup and come to Leeds United, who were in the all second division then, you know, as it was.
Yeah.
He says, Eddie, I came because Bobby Collins was there. And he knew if Bobby Collins was there, they'd be doing things right.
Bobby, a Celtic legend as well, of course, wasn't he? Yeah.
And Bobby was, I mean, Bobby was frightening, you know. He ran the whole show, Bobby, for a period of time. I remember when I was 15, you know, you're young, you know, and at half time you used to try and sneak in the corner of the dressing room to listen to what was happening at half time. Things weren't going well. Don was sometimes just stand back, and Bobby would be going, you're useless. All the way around the squad. It's everybody, nobody avoided Bobby's. Bobby was fiery. Now, I'll tell you something that happened to me when I was 15 with Bobby, and he wouldn't get away with it now. Don used to split us into 4 teams, and there were 4 captains. And all the pre-season, you were playing for points, and the winning captain get a prize after that.
That'd have been competitive.
Yeah, aye. Well, the most points you could get is winning across country at Roundy Park, where I've just been walking. So Bobby comes up to me, 5'3", fine girl. He realised I could run. I was only 15. I want 20 points after you a day. So I says, Bobby, you're getting 20 points. I'm running around Roundy Park. I'm clearing everybody for buying an old Scottish pro. Did brilliant for our club, Jim Story. You know, and Jim scored a lot of goals, helped the club to get the all second division. So I'm running, and I've got Story in the back of my pocket. I'm thinking, he's gone. You know, and he's all pro and that. And he says to me, Eddie, we've left him all behind. We run in together and we get 20 points each for our teams. 2 yards to the line, he sprints away from me. So this is true. So Bobby comes in, he sees Story laughing, and Don's killing himself. Don Revie, he's at the winning post, he's the judge. He's killing himself laughing. He asked me what happened, and I told him. He chinned me. Bobby proper chinned me. Never let that happen to you again. That was Bobby.
As we speak, Eddie, the club has just secured its place back in the Premier League, which is fantastic. I mean,
it is,
and I think what's been lovely recently, we've seen the emotion for you in the main stand. You know, your great nephew Harry making his debut at 16.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. How we can see the emotion, but can you explain in words what that means to you?
Well, it's just nice. It's members of the family are still involved in the club. I mean, I remember when I first come down here when I was 15, you know, and no longer after I was here, I says to Don Revie, you know, our Frank's 7 years younger than me. I says to Don, I says, listen, I've got a younger brother in Scotland who's going to go be a player. And he looked at me and says, Eddie, we know all about that. He was 7, 8, you know.
I mean, it's a fantastic family name in football, Eddie. You'll be hugely proud of. You know, your brother Frank.
Yeah.
You know, we've just referred to your great nephews,
Andrew as well,
Archie, Harry, Andy.
Andy. Our Stuart played as well. Obviously, Stuart played with Celtic.
And he was a good player.
Stuart was a good player.
Eddie.
Stuart had a good career. Stuart did really well when he went down south, because Stuart went to Ruston and Diamonds when they come through all the leagues, and they got into the Football League and they did really well. He done it. Stuart was a good player. Funny enough, when Stuart was young, he had this illness called ulcerated colitis, which actually caught him, you know, later on in life. And because Stuart had tremendous ability, but it took away his pace. You know, because he was quick when he was a kid, you know. Stuart was one of them, he'd get the ball and get by 3 or 4 players.
I saw him at Bournemouth, Eddie. He had a brief loan spell down there.
Yeah.
And I spoke to him a few times, and, you know, great lad and good player. And, you know, we were all...
He had a good career, you know.
We were all deeply saddened by his passing a year ago. But, you know, he's played his part as well in keeping the family name in the game. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah. His boy that lives in Harrogate, Jacob, he's at the academy.
Here?
Aye, at Leeds.
Really?
He's a good player.
What position's he, Eddie?
He'll play up front. They'll play behind the centre forward, Jacob. He's been at the academy for a few years now.
Is there just an endless supply chain of greys?
Well, I don't know.
Is it incredible?
There seems to be a few of them, because, you know, our Andrew, you know, Frank's boy, you know, his boys play as well. You know, they're coming on now, the younger ones, you know. Obviously Archie and, you know, like Harry, you know, but a couple of younger ones as well. They can play.
You're 77 now, Eddie, aren't you?
77, aye.
You're obviously, I mean, in your playing day, you could look after yourself, and you're in part of a dressing room. You had to know about yourself. But see, when we see that softer side of you, when you're reduced to tears, is that just magical? Is it just when you see what's happening in front of you?
Well, it's funny, you know. Like, you think back to, you know, when I was 15 and coming down here, and then you look at the tradition with the family. There's still players called Gray playing at Elland Road.
It's incredible.
You know, it is. It's terrific. So hopefully there'll be, you know, as I says the other day in my programme notes, I don't think that Harry's the end of the line. I think there'll be a few more, you know. So hopefully there will be for our sake, the family's sake, and for the club.
Now, what's just as important for us, you'll understand, is are we talking Scotland here? Are they going to play for Scotland? What's happening here?
Well, Archie's already captained England schoolboys, you know, and I think he'll go England.
What happened there, Eddie? How did that happen?
Well,
what happened there?
Asked Andrew. Harry's always threatened to play for Scotland, but he's been with England as well. You know,
really?
He lives in England. Yeah, he's been with the
Eddie, what are you doing? Eddie, what are you doing? Eddie, I mean, come on. What's happening here?
See, the thing about it is, you know, like your kids, they grow up in England, you know, they're English. You know, we'll just have to wait and see how things develop.
Yeah. It's. Have you actually spoken to him? Have you joked with him before in the past about Scotland?
Yeah.
I bet you have.
Yeah, well.
In all seriousness, you would have tried. You would have tried, wouldn't you?
Well, you just mentioned a few things, you know. But I mean, the thing about the boys, you know, like Archie and Harry and all the rest of the boys that played the football. It was a bit different, you know, maybe years ago. They grew up in England and go to school down here, and, you know, Archie's played for the youth teams for England, and Harry's playing now for England's youth teams, and so it's funny enough. I'd like to think they'd play for Scotland, but they're English and they lived in here, you know.
Of course, look, all you're concerned about is that they have good careers, they love their football, that's the main thing for you, of course, you know. But do you like to think in some kind of way you've been an inspiration for them? No, you know, like, the thing about it is, the thing I always say to them, and I always did it, you know, people looked upon me as a, you know, sort of, let's say, a skillful player. But I was a hard worker. I worked hard. Yeah. And that's what I try and impress on all the boys. Never forget, work hard. And be as fit as you can to go out and play every game. Have the younger greys watched footage of you?
I think they'll have seen a bit yet. You know? Yeah.
The old magic.
You know, you're talking about black and white then.
Well, it's still good. It's still top notch. It's still top notch.
I mean, the thing about it is, I mean, I think the respect to get for the family is good. You know, like, obviously I came here in '63. I'm still here. You know, so it's a long period of time.
You're a big Celtic man. You've got the 49ers Enterprises here. Paraag Marathe.
I know.
Tell me, have you had chats with him about what's about to happen with Rangers and obviously Paraag's involvement soon to be with Rangers?
No, but when it happens, I'll probably walk in here with my green and white scarf on. I'm only joking. No, I mean...
Have you started having a bit of banter already?
No. I just, you know, that's something like... I mean, if that happens, it'll be a progress for both clubs.
They've been here 2 years, Eddie, isn't it? And you can see the effect they've had.
Yeah, I mean... I must say, you know, there was a few things in the press down here recently about the manager being under pressure. Our manager's done terrific. You know.
Yeah.
You know, funny enough, you're a manager of a football club. He's getting paid to do one thing: get us out of this division. He deserves a shout at the big league. Yeah.
How good do you think the 49ers Enterprise has been for Leeds United? I think it's 2 years coming up.
The thing about it is, it's still in its early stages when you actually think about the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is where we'll find out now when we move into the big league. Because we, you know, obviously, you know, we've done well in the Championship, but when you're moving up that notch, that's when you'll know what the investment's going to be. And we'll need investment if we're going to survive for, you know, in the big league, or like, you know, Leeds is one of the biggest cities in England. If we're going to be where, you know, like a club was in the past, challenging for honours and banging at the door for Europe every year, you know, in a period of time we played in Europe for about 8-9 years in the trot. You know, because we were always up there. We won league championships, we won the League Cup, we won the FA Cup, we won European trophies. And that's the standard that the club will be trying to set. And I think that's the thing. I think sometimes it helps the players now, because it's not as if they've just come in. I was talking to Gary McAllister last night. Gary was at the game, and him and Gordon Strachan, and they played in a great team. They were a great team when they won the league.
Howard Wilkinson.
Aye, but they were a great team as well. They had great players, you know. It was funny years ago when Billy got asked the question. I said, you know, we were at doing, somebody says to Billy, and Billy was a character, you know. Somebody says to Billy, your team, how do you think it got on against Howard's team? They were a great team. And Billy thought for a minute and went, I think it'd be tough, he says. I think we beat them 1-0. So and he says to Billy, why only one? Why no 2 or 3? Billy says, listen, you've got to remember, we're on 50 now. True story.
Fair enough, can't argue with that. How's Paraag as a person? Is he quite astute? Is he
well, obviously he's astute, but he's a nice fella, you know.
Aye.
You know, my wife and I, we get into the boardroom for every game. You know, the club treat me well here, very well. You know, we get in the boardroom before every game, and it's the same when we get away from home, you know. And you mix with them. They're so enthusiastic about the game and the club. I think, funny enough, you know, when you come to a game here, and before the game, you know, even for me now, when they start singing "Marching On Together," I mean, last night the atmosphere is just electric. You know, and like, you know, the hair still stand up in the back of the neck. You know.
Do you think the Rangers fans are entitled to be excited about what's coming once the takeover's kind of completed?
I think, you know,
knowing what you do,
I think that the people at the football club here, they're successful people, and they want to continue that success.
However, that said, being a Celtic man,
well,
you will feel confident that Celtic will still remain top, I'm sure.
Well, Celtic always manage to just do something that just keeps them there.
You'll have a big regard for the people at Celtic, of course.
Oh yeah, I mean, but you know, what you've got to remember is, you know, like, the Celtic and Rangers are two of the biggest clubs in the world if you look at the support.
Yeah.
You know, there's no doubt about it. And, you know, like, if Rangers get things right, I mean, when I was growing up, you know, as a young kid, Celtic hardly won anything.
No.
You know, no, it's like changed.
But you think it's good, though, if both of them become strong? Then it really becomes fantastic, doesn't it?
I think it's great. I mean, when you look back, you know, when Celtic, you know, won the European Cup, Rangers won the Cup Winners' Cup.
Yeah,
you know?
phenomenal.
You know, that's the power you want in the game. I think that when it was, you know, when it was a 11 playing field, you know, what I mean by that is it wasn't a Premier League, there wasn't no money in England, there was much money in Scotland then, and Celtic and Rangers could hold their own with anybody. You know, when you actually think of all the big competitions that have been in this country, you know, the Coronation Cup, the Empire Exhibition Cup, the first European Cup, the Cup Winners' Cup, Celtic and Rangers won them first. You know, but just the money in the Premier League, I mean, I think that's been the one thing that has rejuvenated the game down here.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is, it was the naming of the league, the Premier League. It made it sound good. You know, and so I think everybody thinks that, you know, in the world now, that's the Premier League in the world.
How do you feel about Celtic these days? Do you enjoy watching them? You're up in January with Big Roy Aitken?
Yeah, I got up to Roy a few times, yeah. Oh,
The Champions League?
Yeah, I still watch the Celtic, you know. I watched them at the weekend, you know, on the telly.
Enjoy watching them?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I always enjoy watching them.
Who do you like?
Yeah.
As somebody who was a supreme entertainer, Eddie, and an extremely talented player, who do you like in the current Celtic side?
Do you know how I think it's been a top player, a captain?
Callum?
Yeah. I think it keeps things going for him all the time.
He is a top captain, isn't he?
You've got to have somebody like that.
Yeah, good player. Very good player.
We had two players that were brilliant, like in the middle of the park, Giles and Bremner, you know, and the two of them, as well, has been top midfield players. You know, it's funny, they're probably the two best midfield players I've ever played with. The two of them scored exactly the same number of goals for the club, you know, for the middle of the park. 115 goals each.
Wow.
For midfield.
That's astonishing, isn't it?
It is.
It's astonishing.
When you actually think two midfield players, so you're talking about a 10-year period, your two midfield players are scoring you know, like 230 goals between them. You know?
So I'm guessing you're loving Celtic's domination at the moment, Eddie?
Oh, I always like to see Celtic doing well, yeah.
So Leeds United are about to officially clinch the championship. Celtic have won the title. That's perfect for you, Eddie, isn't it?
It's good.
Is that a perfect year? It's a perfect year, aye.
It's terrific. I mean, the thing about here, I mean, the most important thing for us, well, you'd like to win a title, but it wasn't just about winning the title, it was getting back into the big league.
Everywhere we go here, Eddie's recognised. There's a club tour at the moment. They're all waving at Eddie.
Yeah,
Legend. That's nice.
Yeah,
That's nice.
Yeah.
The
funny thing is, you know, like people realise, you know. In fact, I think I've started to realise since Leeds United went out the big league, what a big club it is. You know.
The Premier League.
Everybody's wanting them back in. You know,
the Premier League needs Leeds United.
Oh, yeah, it does. I think so.
It's a sensational ground. And
it's great.
They've just announced plans to actually, I think, the building top tiers. Yeah,
there'll be about 55,000. You know, but even standing here, it's a nice stadium.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a nice stadium.
Absolutely fantastic. But
and it's funny, you know, like when I first came here, did it in '63. We used to clean the ground and sweep the terraces. There was no stand there. That was just a terrace. There was all just nothing behind it. This stand wasn't here either. There's all the kids. It's great for all these kids. They do these tours down there, run all the time with school kids. And they come and
it's the future, isn't it? It's the future fans, isn't it?
And they get asked things. Do you want to walk into here?
We'll carry on here. We'll carry on round here, Eddie.
It's great that the kids come down like this, you know, and teachers bring them down, you know, and the kids can sit and they can ask questions, you know, to the teachers, and can walk up, they'll be walking about the dressing room and seeing all the players.
That's fantastic, isn't it?
You know, it's good, yeah.
It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
So Don Revie is just such a huge figure.
Yeah, in this club, yeah.
Incredible times, but see, when I was doing a bit of research on Eddie, Brian Clough, and you can tell me if this quote was true, he's addressed the squad, and unfortunately when he came in, you'd had a few fitness issues, to say the least. He turns around to you apparently and says, if you'd been a horse, I'd have shot you a long time ago. Is that what he said to you?
Yeah.
How did you take that?
I just laughed at him. You know, he was daft anyway, Brian.
Is this in front of the squad?
Yeah. But the squad didn't like it. It didn't bother me. Because I went up and left him. I says to him, how did you finish your career? He says, injury. I says, all right then. Enough said. Because he get finished with an injury, you know. He was a top player, you know, Cloughy.
To be said to you in front of everyone, a lot of players would have just, you know, they would have hated that, they would have cringed, but did you just take it?
I didn't bother me.
It didn't
bother me.
You didn't take it as a disrespect or anything?
No. Cloughy was Cloughy. I mean, my brother played for him. My brother won the European Cup with him, Frank, you know.
Of course.
And I'd say to him, what was his big secret? He said, Frank says, just popping his hood. He'd run the door before every game. And they looked at him and they'd go, see all you hod carriers in here. When you get the ball, just give it to the little fat boy. You know who that was? John Robbo.
Give it to the little fat boy. And he never took that as a disrespect, did he?
No, John was a great player.
He was a phenomenal player.
John was one of the great players, you know. He is, funny enough, I got asked to pick my British top 10, or top 11, you know, and I picked Robbo in it. I think Robbo was a great player. But you know, obviously here, you know, I played with truly great players. I mean, at one time here, I mean, we had 14 one time full international players on the books.
I've quoted Brian Clough to you there, but there was a magnificent quote from Don Revie, Eddie, which I thought, it was an amazing compliment. When Eddie plays in snow, he doesn't leave footprints.
Yeah.
I mean, that just says it all. Yeah.
It doesn't work, but I tried it.
I was watching footage of you coming down and YouTube.
Yeah.
Eddie Gray, The Last Waltz. Some of the footage is astounding. You watch the Burnley goal, but I think there's almost like George Best-esque elements there. You weave your way through, you finish.
Yeah. I mean,
were you just an off-the-cuff player? Did anyone teach you that?
No. I'd say, funny enough, when I first came down here, you know, when I was younger, I mean, I played left half for the Scottish Schoolboys. That was my position. I played as a midfield player. When I first played for the club, you know, I played in the middle of the park, you know, as a midfield player. I made my debut when I was 17 against Sheffield here. We beat them 3-0. I managed to score that day as well. But I was playing in the middle of the park, just an out-and-out midfield player. But what happened is, Don, we had an outside left who was a really good player in the second division called Albert Johansson. He was a black boy. And at that particular time, there wasn't many black players playing.
No.
And Albert used to get a bit of, you know, he was a great lad, Albert, you know. And Don just says, I'm a bit worried about Albert that he'll not be able to take it in the big league. Would you ever go playing outside left? I never played outside left in my life. I says, I'll play outside left. So that's where it started. I played outside left. But I always considered myself a frustrated midfield player.
But where did you get your skills from, Eddie? Did you just teach them yourself out in the streets, playing with your pals?
Well, I played in the streets all the time in Castlemilk, where, you know, basically where I grew up.
Aye.
I was up in Castlemilk last week. I opened a new community centre up in Castlemilk.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
And
how much else did you recognise at Castlemilk?
Oh, so I went back to the old place, Cavan Drive. You know, where I said that was one of the first places built in Castlemilk, Cavan Drive, just at the Croftfoot Road. So that's where I grew up. And we used to play in the streets, getting chased with the police for playing football in the streets. You know, that happened all the time. You know.
Aye. But I mean, I think your ability, you know...
I had to go up to court once, playing football in the streets.
Really?
Yeah. How stupid is that?
You didn't get done though, did you?
No, the judge just laughed at it.
The judge just dismissed it instantly, aye?
Yeah. Yeah.
Deary,
But, I mean, that was that, you know, playing, because in the days, there wasn't a lot of grass about to play, you know.
Aye.
Yeah. And if there was grass, it was across the road in Kings Park, and the Kings Park was quite posh compared to Castlemilk, you know. And they didn't like you playing on the grass, you know. They wanted the grass to be neat.
See when you're voted in the greatest ever Leeds team,
Yeah.
the greatest goal,
Yeah.
you're in the top 3 greatest players. See when you then become manager of Leeds,
Yeah.
how heavily is that on your shoulders? How heavily? And you did it twice.
I
Didn't you?
didn't find it heavy at all, you know. I mean, I've got to say I enjoyed it. You know, I look back, you could have been more successful, you know. But we had a group of young players, you know, when I came here, and they all went on to do well, you know, like a lot of them went on to
Dennis
do well.
Irwin,
Dennis
Scott
Irwin,
Sellers.
Scott Sellers, John Sheridan,
John Sheridan.
Woodgate. I mean, Woodgate played centre-half for England when he was 19.
I think when you came back a second spell,
Yeah.
there was Woodgate, there was Alan Smith,
Yeah, Alan, yeah.
Harry Kuehl.
Yeah, Harry, yeah.
Yeah, which is, you know, testament.
Kuehl was some player.
Yeah.
He was a terrific player. He came out here on his own, you know, when he was 15 for Australia. And as soon as we seen him play, we knew he'd be a top player. He had tremendous ability. And Woodgate was just a great centre-half, you know what I mean.
Ian Hart was another one, I think.
Ian Hart. When you think of Woodgate playing centre-half for England when he was 19, not many people did that.
Do you feel that was your biggest legacy as manager over 2 spells, the young players, the young top players that you brought through?
Well, probably giving them the opportunity to play and encouraging them to play. Yeah, I look back on that and I think, yeah, okay. And a lot of these boys, I mean, they went on to have great careers. I mean, Dennis won, I think, 9 league championships with Man United, you know. And John Sheridan obviously was the great player, and Woodgate, terrific. Kuehl, obviously, he was, you know, when Kuehl was on song, he was some player.
Was there any elements of Don Revie that you tried to implement yourself as a manager? Or was it just impossible?
No, really.
You just have to be yourself.
Exactly what you says there. You couldn't actually try and emulate Don. Don was, you know, he, as a manager, you know, I still think he would have been the best. And it's funny, when he, you know, like, I think a lot of the managers then, when they were young, you know, like starting out, I think Shankly, Don, they all went to see Matt Busby, you know. I say Matt Busby was a man. He taught them how to run a football club, how to treat directors, you know. And when you actually think about managers, Matt Busby was probably the first superstar manager.
Yeah, then you obviously Jock Stein and
Jock.
Bill Shankly.
I think Jock went to see him as well, I think.
Yeah.
Busby.
Yeah.
You know, I think Jock was here.
Yeah.
Jock came here, but only 40 days, you know. I think Jock came here actually. I mean, no disrespect. Jock was brilliant, but no disrespect to him. I think Jock just come down here to force the SF his
hand for the national team job.
Aye, full time, no part time, because then it was part time.
But for you, given your Celtic allegiances, how was it that still to be involved with Jock here?
Oh, it was great. I mean, Jock was terrific. I think Jock was only here basically the same number of days as Clough, 44 days. They were, you know.
Aye.
But Jock, even though he was here for a short period of time, he put a mark on the club. And funny enough, in a different way, so did Brian.
Aye. Well, a more negative way, Brian.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you prefer Jock's stint here than Brian's.
Yeah. I mean, but, you know, when you actually think about it, you know, you're talking about, you know, 3 of the best managers I've ever managed, all managing the same club. Jock, you know, Brian and Don.
Did Jock say anything to you during his stint here that's always stayed with you? Was there any pearls of wisdom?
Jock was very astute, you know, and it was very... Jock would just say things as it were, you know, just, right, this is how it's going to be. And he encouraged players to play. Jock encouraged players. You know, when I think back to the Celtic European Cup team, you can imagine how Jock would have just been saying to them, I said, you've got the ability in the world, just get and destroy them, you know. You know, that'd be Jock, you know.
Aye. He would have loved you as a player.
Oh, yeah.
I mean...
you know, I got on well with Jock, although he was only here 40-odd days. You know, we got on well. But, see, the thing about it is like, you know, great respect for him for what he did in the game. That's it, you know.
Yeah.
He was right up there, you know, with the greatest managers that have ever managed, you know, the Busbys, the Shankleys, the Revies, you know, the Jock was there. The Jock was right up there.
So even though it was just a short period, you still regarded that as a kind of privilege?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
To play under Jock Stein, yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, his record in football was tremendous, you know. I mean, even, you know, as a player at Celtic, you know, and, you know, he played at Celtic, then he goes away and he comes back, and the success they had.
Yeah. I think your whole time here, Eddie, is just phenomenal. The people, the managers, your teammates, the experiences.
I mean, I've got to say, I mean, when I first come down here, as you know, I was 15. I could have went anywhere, but I was so impressed with the manager. And I can honestly say, I've not regretted one day coming here, even though I was a Celtic supporter.